I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern14.com, joined by Blake Lovell, also of Southeastern14.com. Blake, big weekend of basketball ahead for the SEC. Let's get right into it. Kentucky plays Ohio State in Las Vegas. Ken Pom has this as a 1-point game in Ohio State's favor. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, how Kentucky bounces back, after that loss to Notre Dame. They didn't play well. I mean, the three-point shooting was something that, we talked coming in the season, thought they'd be much better at, but it just hasn't happened. And, they're still getting pretty much all their points from, inside the arc. I mean, really, when you look at their point distributions and such, like it's all coming from inside the paint or inside the three-point line. And, they're not even a team that's necessarily making a lot of free throws either. So I think that's what it's going to come down to in this. Can they be a little bit more two-dimensional, three-dimensional when it comes to their offense, and can they get more points elsewhere? Because if not, I think it becomes, against these better teams especially, it becomes a much bigger challenge. And like we talked about, C.J. Frederick's injury, that plays a role in their three-point shooting. That was someone we thought they'd have, but other guys just haven't been able to make shots consistently. So I think that's key to a game like this, because, Ohio State, they get a lot of their points from three, and I think that'll be a big sort of factor. If you're trading threes for twos, we know how that works from a mathematical standpoint. So I think it's an interesting game for them. I'm not jumping off the bandwagon just yet. I think it'll be late January, early February before we know exactly what Kentucky will get in March. But I think for now it's a big opportunity for them.
Oscar Tshiebwe has been a beast for Kentucky. He's averaging something like 16 and 14, just numbers you never see. But I think the surprise for me has been Kellen Grady. We both thought he was one of the better pieces that you could pop into an SEC team anywhere because of what he brought to the table. 8 points his last time out. Kentucky is, I think, 269th nationally in three-point shooting. What does Kentucky need to do to get Kellen Grady going?
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a lot of minutes. It's just, it's like you said, it's how do you get him more involved, and he's just got to make shots too. I mean, that's something that you kind of do it that way. But really, I mean, he's not shooting a ton, and I think that's also because they do have a lot of different options, whether it's Wheeler and Washington and those guys who are going to have the ball in their hand probably a little bit more, and maybe that's something that kind of goes into it is those two guys are going to have the ball and have the opportunity, a lot more maybe in some of these scenarios, and we've seen that play out thus far. So yeah, it's going to be key because they need someone to kind of step up and make shots consistently outside. And he's proven he can do that, but I think they need a little bit more. And I think especially in a game like this, they're going to need that. I think to beat a team like this. So
let's move to our backyard here in Nashville, where Tennessee is going to face Memphis. And Tennessee, after losing to Texas Tech in an ugly game, has, I don't know if you say gotten right, but had a couple of cupcakes to heal, easy wins. Memphis, man, you tell me what to expect to the Tigers. Just when they were dead and buried, lost to Georgia, lost to Murray State. They go and shock Alabama the other night and didn't just win, but won big. What do you make of this matchup? Which I think, by the way, Ken Pom has got Tennessee favored by 5 in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's one of those things where it's what do you make of one game? Because with a team like Memphis, it's that how they played against Alabama is how they should have been playing the entire year. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, have they figured everything out at this point, or was that sort of one game where they just basically it's a must-win sort of scenario after you've lost 4 straight games? I'm not sure yet, and I think we probably find that out against Tennessee. I tend to think that probably Memphis just getting a win is going to go a long way, and I think they'll come into this, riding high and feeling really good about themselves against this Tennessee team that, like you said, is they've played, competition that they should beat the way they should beat them the last couple games after that loss to Texas Tech. But I mean, it's going to be a challenge going up against this Memphis team. We talked about it. Everything Kennedy Chandler, I think, is just going to everything's going to have to go through him. And obviously, I think if you look at it for him, I mean, this is a big game. He's a Memphis native and he's from there. And I think this will be a big game for him. But it's gotten a lot more interesting, I think, just after what Memphis did to Alabama. But yeah, I still think the edge probably does go to Tennessee because you just look at how Tennessee plays defense. I think they'll be able to frustrate Memphis in a lot of different areas. But it should be a good game. And Memphis plays like they did against Alabama, they'll probably win it. So
Yeah, Tennessee, the number one defensive team in the country, according to Ken Pom. 5 seems a little low to me, just given what we know about these two teams and their consistency. And I guess you could nitpick and say Texas Tech, Villanova, Tennessee's offense looked awful both times. But I just think the Vols have got a lot of guys who can score, even though it doesn't always show up every night.
Yeah, I think you're banking on Memphis playing the way they did on Tuesday, and I think that's understandable, but I think that's also scary because this is a team that has not been consistent at all over the past month. And, again, I mean, this is, like we said, it's a team that lost to Iowa State, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Murray State, and nothing against any of those teams. Iowa State's certainly been a surprise. But this is, one of those teams that kind of, you never know. And so I think that's it. I think it's just you're banking on Memphis continuing the momentum they had from beating Alabama, not just beating Alabama, like they did it convincingly. And so I think that's probably how you look at it if you're trying to sort of handicap a game like this.
Okay, Auburn travels to St. Louis. St. Louis under Travis Ford has been a really good mid-major, very consistent. One of those 12, 13 seed type teams a lot of the years in the NCAA tournament. St. Louis has lost 3 times, including once to Memphis by 16 points. Auburn is a 6-point favorite, according to Ken Pom. What do we think here?
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis is not bad at all. You say lost to Memphis, UAB, and Belmont. If you got 3 losses on the year, you did a lot worse than those 3. So I think that kind of shows you what they're capable of. And, it's one of those teams that doesn't have a lot of experience. This is not, his most experienced team there with Travis Ford, but you just kind of know what you're going to get from them. Like they're going to be a scrappy sort of team. They're probably going to find a way to get to the free throw line. But, very aggressive type of style. But I think, with Auburn, we talked about it. I mean, this is just a team that has all the pieces seemingly in place to really, have a shot at winning the SEC. And I think with just how they play, on offense and how they're able to force, turnovers and create some havoc on defense. I just think that's probably the difference in this game. But it is a road game, and we always talk about those, especially early in the season. We kind of seen it with Florida. We've seen it obviously with Alabama now at Memphis. It just you never can tell with some of those games, and I think this is one that will not be easy by any means for Auburn. And certainly, it's a team that does shoot quite a few threes, and they'll probably need to make some of those to be able to pull away and win a game like this. But yeah, I think Auburn's still, certainly the better team in this scenario. But you never know about those early road games, true road games like this. Those can be a little tough. So,
yeah, 2 questions here for both sides. I think that Auburn, in terms of height, with Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler, St. Louis 3'11" in effective height by Ken Pom. They got a couple 6'8", 6'9" guys, but it's not the same as what Auburn's got. But St. Louis also gets to the line a lot, and big guys get in foul trouble. That could help neutralize things in the Billikens' favor a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean it'll be an up and down sort of game, I think, just with how these two play on offense. So that's also something, you get the fast breaks and you get fouls and those sort of things. We know when you have two teams that are really, going back to what I said, like two very aggressive type teams, I think, and what they're able to accomplish. So even though Auburn, does get a lot of points from 3, like they're still a team that can be very aggressive and again push the tempo on that. So yeah, this should be an entertaining game, I think, to say the least. But another true road game for Auburn. I think it's only their second of the year. They didn't play necessarily great in that one against South Florida a month ago. So maybe that's something you kind of keep in the back of your head on this one. And maybe it makes it a little bit closer than the gap is, perhaps, when it comes to just the talent. So,
last one here. LSU goes a little bit north and will face Louisiana Tech. That one in the Century League Center at Bossier City, which is just outside of Shreveport. LSU still unbeaten, playing extremely well. Louisiana Tech, though, not the mid-major you want to get a lot of times, especially closer to its backyard.
Yeah, I mean, that first game of the season against Alabama, they did not play well at all. But since then, I mean, they've been pretty solid for the most part. I mean, they lost that game at NC State, but, that's not one either you're going to be too upset about. Yeah, I think this is another scenario where LSU defensively just can find a way to overwhelm a team like this. And that may prove to be the difference just based on, how good LSU is. We talk about size. They'll certainly have the size advantage in this game. When you look at kind of how the lineup's built and what they're able to do there. So Yeah, I mean, you know, riding the LSU train until I think they lose at this point, because you just don't. You've seen it enough now to where they have the confidence, and you think they're going to find a way to be able to win, you know, each time out. And this is another one where this will be a test, I think, with Louisiana Tech, because this is a pretty talented team, but LSU defense is the difference, and I think it'll be the difference in this one. So
We've got a lot of the other solid games this weekend. Goodness, we've got Texas A&M, Oregon State. That's probably lost a little luster because OSU isn't as good. You've got South Carolina, Clemson. You got Alabama, Jacksonville State. You know, a matchup of two in-state teams. Anything else that stands out to you about the weekend that's worth a mention?
yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly, you know, when you talked about it, like a South Carolina, that's a nice opportunity against a Clemson. I think if they can get another win after beating Florida State, that'd be nice for South Carolina. You know, Florida should beat South Florida handily, but this
But
is a
it's
team,
Florida.
like you said.
Who
Well, and like
knows?
you said, I mean, they've lost 3 or 4 now, and I think you'd like to see them get right, because, you know, if they look sloppy in a game like this and maybe, you know, struggle to a win, then I think you get more concerned a bit about them moving forward. You know, I think Mississippi State and Furman's an interesting game on Friday. That's another one that I think is kind of fascinating. When you look at Mississippi State, that's one they'd like to have, probably. You know, even Dayton, Ole Miss, like that's another one that's good. You know, Missouri, Utah, Missouri's just kind of, I just don't
Yeah.
know. You know, Alabama and Jacksonville State, you mentioned that one. I think that's another one that, you know, you would expect Alabama to bounce back, but I think Jacksonville State's always one of those tricky teams. You know, good coach, and I think that's one that you look at that's kind of interesting. The others, I guess, the only others if we didn't really mention, I mean, Vanderbilt, Austin Peay. You would think Vanderbilt should take care of business there. Arkansas, Hofstra, that's an interesting one, but Arkansas is better. And then I think Georgia against George Mason. You know, we talked about Georgia and maybe trying to build some kind of momentum if they can here going into conference play. They got 4 games they could win. You know, they're building off of that win against Memphis a couple weeks ago. So that's another one. Maybe, you know, if you see Georgia build a little momentum here, they'd like to have that probably going into SEC play.
Okay, Blake, if folks want to put a little money on the games this weekend, we've got a partnership with Action 24/7. Tell folks about that.
Yeah, all you got to do is head over there, and yeah, our promo code is South14. You can put that in, and they'll match your first deposit up to, I think it's $800. So yeah, you can put that in, and a lot of good game. I mean, like we said, look at the slate. Like it's just it's a completely full slate of SEC basketball this weekend. So yeah, you can check that out. South 14, just use that, and yeah, you can. Those fine folks will help you out there. So.
All right, I'm Chris Lee. He's Blake Lovell. Lots more stuff coming in the coming months as the SEC really gets into full tilt. We're getting close to conference play. We got Christmas tournaments coming up. We'll have you covered for all that. So anyway, thanks for watching our video. If you're watching, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That really helps us out. Anyway, thanks for watching. We will see you guys again very soon.